Is Remington's new 10mm Golden Saber load any good? We're going to find out today. Hey everybody, welcome back to LocaCarnivore, the hunting, guns, and adventure channel for smart people. And you're smart because you're watching us instead of some of that intellectually bankrupt pedestrian drivel that you see on YouTube all over the place. Well, today, like we said in the hook, we're going to talk about Remington's new 180 grain Golden Saber 10mm load. I call it new because I just found it on the shelf a few weeks ago and decided, hey, let's go ahead and put this through our exclusive Frost Giant gel test regimen. And if you want to know how that's all put together in detail, there's a link down in the description there. You can go down, check it out. It's got the full details on it. I'll give you a quick overview in just a second. Remember to subscribe to our channel. Give us a big thumbs up and like us. And don't forget to ring that bell. That way you'll get notified of every video we come out with. Going to want to stay for the entire video. We've got all the data as far as penetration and wound cavity diameters. All that stuff's going to be right at the end of the video for you. So stay with us. All right, so there's a quick look at the label of the 180 grain Golden Saber 10mm load. You can see the velocity on there. They're calling 1160 feet per second advertised. And here's a look at the round in question. Make sure we get enough light on there for you. It's the standard Golden Saber. It's been around. This was introduced in 1991 when Remington first came out with it. And you can see it's got a pretty wide hollow point cavity on that. It's got a relatively flat meplet, which is pretty common for 10mm anymore. Don't forget to share this video. Let's put this thing out there and have it grow legs. So I showed you a quick shot of the bullet there. You could kind of see how it's all constructed and everything. Pretty standard stuff. Nice nickel-plated case. As Remington said on the box, they advertised 1160 feet per second velocity. That equates to 538 foot-pounds of energy, which is roughly in the 357 Magnum range, give or take a few foot-pounds of energy. It's definitely not what we would consider full house 10mm, which would be on a 180 grain bullet, you'd have to be close to well over 1300 feet per second, closer to 1350 feet per second. But this is still hotter than the same bullet weight in 40 Smith & Wesson, so it's 10mm. It's just not super hot 10mm. The recoil impulse on this was quite mild. It was pleasant to shoot, and it found the reliability, at least in the test gun, to be quite good. It ran just fine. The LocaCarnivore project has only one form of support right now, and that's you, our viewers, at our Patreon. So do us a favor, go down to the link in the description there, go over to Patreon, show us a little love on that. There's some goodies for you at the same time. We'd really appreciate it. Now, just a quick reminder on our what we call our Frost Giant or Jotun test contraption, gel test contraption, is it simulates a cross-torso shot, i.e. the FBI's nightmare shot from the 1986 Miami shootout. It's designed to be an analog for a very large-statured individual who's wearing heavy, proper winter clothing. But what we do is we put the cloth pack on the outside, i.e. stimulating the outside arm of the jacket, or of the clothing rather, and then we have a block that's set sideways, gel block, and that simulates the arm tissue, simulates the bicep and tricep tissue. We don't have a bone analog in there. It's just very difficult to simulate bone. And then we have another gel block that's lengthwise, and that's the torso, if you will, of the analog. And we put two cloth packs in between that arm block and that torso block, which simulates the inside of the sleeve garment and then the torso garments. And why do we do this? Well, it's because we don't believe that the FBI's test protocols really get it right when it comes to heavy winter clothing. Now, the test gun that we used on our test was a 5-inch 1911. This happens to be a Ronin from Springfield Armory. Now, this particular Golden Saber load, as far as we can tell, is not the bonded Golden Saber. Remington came out with that a little while ago in order to try to get the bullet to have a better chance of meeting all the NIJ FBI protocols as far as barrier penetration, plywood, auto glass, etc. and wanted that core to stick with the bullet. The previous bullets were not bonded. I don't believe this is bonded either. It didn't say anywhere on the package. Hey, if you happen to know if it's bonded, well, go in the comments and let us know. We'd appreciate that. Don't forget to comment on the video. All the comments that you provide to us help us make better videos, and they give us great ideas for videos too. This is going to be Remington 10mm 180 grain Golden Saber. Try for that lower right hand corner. Feeding is good. I think we got a good hit. Oh yeah. Yeah, that went right in. Really good. Okay. Okay, we're going to show you the tracks in the gel for these various loads. This is the torso block. Likewise, don't know if you can see it down in there. Likewise did the Remington. Just pulled some material into the torso block. Alright, in order to get a little better view of the wound tracks in the gelatin after those tests out there on the range, we brought them inside to the award-winning LocaCarnivore laboratories located at the sprawling LocaCarnivore headquarters complex. Now what you're looking at this point is from the top down, and we're looking at the 10mm that we tested. And in the gap here would have been the cloth packs that you saw in between the two gel blocks. So what we're looking at is the entrance area here through the cloth pack. These are the temporary initial expansion cavities. And then we have the cavities from the bullets as they went through the second cloth packs and then came to rest in the gel. And then underneath, lower, I'm going to try to do this without getting any serious lens flare, but you can just see it underlying the SIG. This is the temp cavity from the 180 grain Remington Golden Saber. That's their new 10mm load they just came out with recently. Alright, we're going to look at the permanent wound cavities from the bullets that went through. This is a 380 from the other direction, so ignore that. And right here we have, it's hard to see, these blocks are a little, there we go. This one here is the 180 grain Remington Golden Saber. You see the bullet came to rest. Now each of these had at least 1.5 to 2 inches of bounce back. Clear Ballistics gel says you do not count the bounce back for penetration. You only measure to where the bullet comes to rest. So that's the 180 grain Golden Saber. And here we are with Remington's brand new 180 grain 10mm offering, and this is their Golden Saber. It does not say it's bonded on the package, so I'm assuming this is the old school Golden Saber design. It's not the bonded Golden Saber, but maybe they're just bonding them now. I don't know. It looks like the core stayed in very good shape. Unreal expansion. I mean, take a look at this thing. If I can get this thing to focus. Look at that. Just unreal expansion. I mean, this is stuff we see out of the best like 45 caliber loads like the Gold Dot and the Hydroshock Deep and some of those. So really excellent expansion. However, it paid the price, as you saw, in limited penetration. Anytime you increase all this frontal area, you severely increase the drag, which is a problem that 45 ACP has. When it expands big, it just slows down big time. Yeah, I was hoping that this would have enough energy and a higher velocity, being a 10mm load, that it would keep on soldiering through and pound its way into that other block, the second block, further than it did. But alas and alack, it did not. So we didn't chrono the load, but I'm suspecting that this thing just needs a little more velocity, a little more energy to get deeper, or it could use some more mass. I would say actually slow this thing down a little bit, increase the weight, go to a 200 grain slug, and reduce that expansion just maybe by about 10 to 20%, and you'd get much better penetration out of it. But if you're looking for something that is going to make a tremendously wide temporary cavity once it expands, or permanent cavity once it expands, in a 10 millimeter, this is a good load for that. Fantastic expansion. Well, that was a pretty interesting gel test. What did we learn on this thing? Well, first of all, we found out that the penetration wasn't as good as we had hoped. We require a minimum of 12 inches, what we feel is appropriate, is 12 inches of penetration into that torso block, because on a large statured individual, their chest cavity is roughly about anywhere from 22 to 24 inches wide at the armpits. It's very normal for that size of a human being. So in order to get to the middle where the heart is, you need 12 inches of penetration in there. The 10 millimeter Golden Saber 180 grain only provided 4¼ inches of penetration into the torso, which is very shallow. A couple things that affected that, as you saw in the close-ups of the recovered slug, the expansion was phenomenal on this thing. I mean, this thing opened up like a .45 caliber slug generally does. So it was massive frontal area there, which automatically slows the bullet down. You increase that frontal drag through the fluid and really reduce the momentum that bullet has. Also, you saw that the bullet, when it got into the torso block, it drew a whole bunch of the cloth pack material into that wound cavity, if you will, a good 1½, almost 2 inches into there. And we found this in other tests, that when the bullet mushrooms out and you get those peel back and you get those petals peeling back, they tend to be sharp. If it grabs onto the material between the blocks, that will pull into the wound cavity, but it really slows the thing down. It's trying to pull that mass into the gel block, and that creates a tremendous amount of drag and force that just slows that bullet down. So I think that had a lot to do with it. If it didn't have to go through those additional cloth packs, it probably would have had very good penetration. It probably would have exceeded the average 45 ACP, in my opinion, which is what we generally find in 10 millimeter. The other thing about this load is, even though the energy is a little bit down for 10 millimeter, as you saw, it really smacked that gel block. So there's just something about 10 millimeter. It's just kind of got that magic sweet spot, if you will. It's not very scientific, but it just has that sweet spot that it just really transfers energy. So it's a very effective round in that regard. So how would we rate the 10 millimeter offering in Remington's Golden Saber line, the 180 grain? And we'd have to rate this thing as basically marginal to unacceptable, with some caveats, i.e. it pulled all that material through, but it might do that in reality as well against a human assailant. We would suggest that if you're going to carry this for winter time, that you keep in mind that it's probably best used on with your assailant facing you, so it's just got this single layer of winter clothing to get through. And in that regard, it made a excellent temporary wound cavity in the arm blocks. So the initial expansion after the initial penetration is going to give you very good energy transfer, on a par with at least 45 ACP or other 10 millimeter loads out there. So it's very good in that regard. Just keep in mind though, if for some freaky reason you end up having to do that cross torso shot against a big person with heavy clothing, it might not give you the performance you're looking for. Hey, thank you for spending your valuable time here with us at the LocaCarnivore. We really appreciate it. We hope you got some good information out of this. Remember, the ultimate act of resistance is insisting upon facts. We'll see you next time on LocaCarnivore.